Hey guys, Cam here from PhoneDog.com, and a lot has been made of Galaxy's switch to metal. After all, for years it was criticised for being too plasticky by many, probably including myself. A problem further exacerbated by the rise of metal smartphones. Apple, Sony, HTC and Nokia or Microsoft have all switched to using metal and glass to build high-quality premium devices. Eventually, Samsung caved to the pressure, and its new flagship finally has the materials and build quality to match its position on the market. When the design was finally leaked, it was compared to the iPhone 6, so I couldn't resist but to put them side by side and see just how similar they are. And also to compare it to the best metal-framed phone Samsung already has on the market, the Galaxy Note 4. But first up, the iPhone. Let's start with the obvious, that bottom edge. Many have mocked it as being identical to the iPhones, and yes, there are similarities, but there are also some key differences. Firstly, Samsung's machined speaker grill holes. The S6 has 2 rows of 5 and the iPhone has 1 row of 6. Samsung's also has 2 plastic antenna gaps which are missing on the iPhone. And although the overall device thickness is 0.1mm thinner than the iPhone 6, Samsung's metal frame is clearly thicker, and on the right and left edges takes on a different shape with its sculpted flat edge. Both phones have pill-shaped volume buttons. iPhones are recessed into the frame and closer together. On the right edge, both have their power and sleep key and metal SIM tray. But you'll notice that the iPhone's is placed much higher up the frame than Samsung's. And if we turn our attention to the back, and it's clear so evidently that these are 2 completely different phones. Samsung's is all glass with its camera and LED setup placed in the centre. iPhone is all metal with the camera placed in the top left corner. And if you thought Apple's protruding camera was bad, you should see the Samsung's. It's practically a mountain. And from the front, both phones again look distinct from each other. Samsung's brand name is prominent and the device is noticeably wider and taller than the iPhone. Its home button is a completely different shape too, although both now use a similar method of scanning fingerprints using the sensor. And for those wanting specifics in dimensions, the iPhone 6 is 5.3mm narrower than the S6 at 138.1mm wide. And at 67mm tall, it's almost 3mm shorter. It's also 9 grams lighter at 129 grams, and it's easy to see why it's smaller and lighter. The Samsung boasts a 5.1-inch display versus the iPhone's 4.7-inch screen. Rather than being a direct copy of the iPhone 6, the Samsung Galaxy S6 looks more like a cross between a Sony Xperia Z3 and an iPhone. In other words, it's different from both. And then we get onto the Note 4, and in many ways it's the S6's bigger older brother. There are bound to be some similarities in design, but there also have to be differences to distinguish them from each other. Size-wise, the Note 4 is an impressive 10mm taller and 8mm wider than the S6. It's also almost 2mm thicker and weighs 38 grams more. And although they both have a metal chassis, there are some striking differences in terms of how it's been finished and other materials used in the design. Turning to the back, and you'll see the most obvious difference. The Galaxy Note 4 has a removable textured plastic back. Saying that, its camera makeup is similar, although it does have the LED and heart rate monitor in a different position. Also different to the S6, the Note 4's loudspeaker is placed on the back and not on the bottom edge. Comparing the metal frames, the differences are clear. The Note 4's is much flatter and features curves around the ports and more angular sculpting on the sides. Its corners aren't as rounded and its edges are shiny and chamfered. It's also anodized, where the S6 has kept the original metal colour. Both have the same capacitive buttons on the front, similarly designed home buttons, earpiece and sensor makeup. It's clear though that one is designed to be comfortable in one hand while the other is a hyper smartphone which feels far more suited to two-handed use. In conclusion, there are clearly some similarities between the S6 and the 2 other phones, but it clearly has its own identity and style. I don't see anyone being able to confuse it for anything other than what it is, and in all honesty, I think it's the best looking and best feeling smartphone Samsung has ever made. I've been Cam, I'm at PhoneDog_Cam on Twitter. You can ask me questions, give me suggestions, thoughts, anything like that on there, and you can use the comments in the section down below. And please do give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you like what we make, and I will see you again soon.